everyone, it's Tasha and welcome back to my channel. Today's video was fun for me to make because I was able to work on it with my friend Cassie. I decided that I wanted to make a card geared for Mother's Day, but of course could be used for any other occasion. What was interesting about this project is that I was able to walk into her home with just an idea, and she trusted me enough to just follow my lead. We incorporated some weaving and some quilling, and we're both really happy with the final result. If you'd like to see what we came up with, stick around and watch this video. We hope you enjoy it as much as we did. Let's get started. So we each had 2 pieces of watercolor paper, and I will be showing you what I'm working on for the most part, but I will also incorporate what Cassie's project looks like at the same time, at different stages. So we started off with some sprayable inks. I have the links for those in the description box, and you'll need some water bottles to apply the water. And so the plan was that I was going to work on a more muted color tone, and Cassie was going to work on something that was more vibrant and contrasting so that you could see the difference. So I had some peaches and some light greens, and she was working with some blues and some bright pinks. And so you're just wetting the paper and then spraying your inks and letting that ink move around. I like to dry my paper in between stages. And you see me drying her paper as well. We worked really well together. I wasn't really sure how we were going to get everything in the video, but it worked. So now we're cutting the cards down to the sizes that we thought we wanted the finished project to be. And I believe that was 4x5. So we decided to go with 1/2 inch strips. So right here you see me marking off 1/2 inch for the border. And what I like to do is I like to give myself a 1/2 inch border that I don't cut into, so it's easier for me to actually weave the strips into it. So I draw a line across the top, and that's my stop point. I will not cut beyond that point. And now I'm making 1/2 inch marks across and drawing the line straight down. And those are the lines that I will be cutting right up until that border at the top. It will make more sense. But if you've ever done any weaving, or if you did that when we were, when you were kids, like in kindergarten, this is nothing more than that. So I messed up here. I wanted to make the strips that I wanted to cut so that I could weave into them, and I actually cut them across the wrong way. I should have cut them the long way, and I realized that when it was too late. I had already made those marks. So I'm erasing them here, and then I'm going to cut them the correct way. There were a lot of points where I kept looking over at Cassie. Is that right? Do the math, because she's a math teacher. Is that math correct? I like to tape my piece down before I start the weaving process. It keeps it more secure. Don't do what I did though. I really secured that tape on, and then when I ended up pulling it up, it ripped through the paper, which I didn't think would happen because it's painter's tape, but it did. And now you're just doing the basic over, under pattern for the weaving. I do my best to try to keep my projects simple and easy to follow because the whole point is for us to just enjoy ourselves creating, not to stress out. These aren't huge world problems. We're supposed to have fun. And you just continue doing that with the rest of your strips. I ended up not using all of my strips. I'll push them up as far as I can, but I don't want to warp the paper. I don't want to tear the paper. And it's going to be a background piece anyway, so perfection is not needed. And you see me gluing down my pieces. So now we're moving on to the quilling section. Now quilling is something that I have done before. I'm doing more of it. You can see that I'm telling Cassie what to do as we're going along. So I cut the quilling paper in half for the petals that I wanted to make for some flowers. So you take the quilling paper and you insert it in between the slots on the quilling tool. And you will either then twirl it away from yourself or twirl it towards yourself. Now I tend to twirl away from myself, but I've seen it done the other way. The results are exactly the same. When you're done, you want to pop it off the tool, and you see that just kind of squeezing it a little bit just to make sure that everything is nestled the way it should be. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it sit on the tip of my finger and loosen up. You want that coil to just open up. And I'm very clumsy, so things are going to fall out of my hands all the time. And then you want to glue that little piece down once your loose coil is formed. And I'm just using a little bit of Elmer's glue. You can use any glue you want. There's tacky glue. I also have that works really well as well. Make sure your little piece is secured. And now I'm going to want to create a petal shape for my flower. And it's very simple. You want to take your coil and with your 2 fingers, you just want to pinch one side of your coil. And there's your petal. And I'm going to end up making 6 petals for each flower. And I'm making 2 flowers. So I'm now putting my petals on a piece of wax paper that is sitting on top of a piece of corkboard. I find this to be the easiest way for me to get my pieces to stick together so I don't have to hold them and wait for them to dry. So I'm just using a couple of pins, well, more than a couple, several pins, and I'm just applying a little bit of glue at the bottom of each petal, and then I'm sticking them into the cork board. That way I can position them the way I want them to end up, and then I can just let them sit and dry without touching them. And now with this yellow strip, I used a full strip. With this yellow strip, I'm just creating a tight coil, which means I'm going to roll it up into that coil, and I'm not going to let it loosen up on my finger. I'm just going to keep it nice and tight, and I will glue it, and that is what I'm going to use as the center of my flower. Put a little bit of glue and you're all set. Now we're going to make some scrolls. And so I'm using 3 colors, 3 different shades of green. And what you want to do is apply a little bit of glue. And you don't need as much glue as I use. I overdo everything, but honestly, just a little bit of glue. And you want to just glue the tips together, all 3 pieces at the ends. And you want to scroll them together, twirl them together. If I haven't done a good job showing you what's supposed to happen here, definitely look up quilling. There are some great artists out there who do some amazing quilling work. But I'm just trying to pull the tail a little bit so that I can loosen up the scroll and make the scroll look the way I want to. And for some reason, I was just all over the place. My hands, which give me issues sometimes, every once in a while I have problems with my hands, but I just have no idea what was happening with them today. Every time I pulled, my left hand would go a little wonky, but really it's a very simple process. You twirl them all together. You pull the tail so that you can make it look the way you want it to look. And then you just call it a day. But I was having a really tough time. And I like to cut the tails a little staggered when I'm making scrolls. I find that it makes it easier, just a little easier to place, and it's just prettier, in my opinion, when they're staggered this way. And then you want to put a little bit of glue and glue all those pieces down. And now I'm just using the straight pin that comes with the quilling set that I purchased, which I will also link. And just giving it a little bit of a curl. And that's one of my scrolls. And now you get to place them and see what looks good to you. Now, if you don't have die cutters or paper punches or anything fancy that you want to use for your cards, you can do what I do. I like to use cookie cutters. They come in so many different shapes, and they're usually pretty cheap, so that's what we're using today. And I have a growing collection of stamps, so Cassie and I used a couple of different sayings from my stamp collection. And so I thought it was easier for us to put the stamps on and get that situated before I cut anything out. And we decided what we wanted to do to get more contrast is we were actually going to switch papers. So I'm using her paper to put on my card and she's using my paper to put on her card. So the final product was actually very interesting because when you put them together, they looked like sister cards. And now we're creating the actual card. So if I'm not mistaken, I ended up cutting my woven part to 3.5 inches by 4.5 inches. And then I cut my green paper, which is the background paper, to 4 inches by 5. And then the pink paper, which is my card, I cut to 4.5 by 10 and then folded it to create the card. But you can make your card whichever size you want. The rule of thumb usually is to just add 1/2 inch to each piece so that you have a nice border on either side. But it's your card, so you make it whichever way you'd like. And now we're just going to put a few strips of some foam tape on the back of the saying. And we do that just to make it pop up a little bit off the card. I just like that little bit of elevation. Just putting some little half pearls to embellish it a little bit. Just have fun with your cards. There's so many cool things out there to dress up your cards. So Cassie had picked the saying, "Let your dreams take flight." So she wanted to use one of the butterflies from the stamp collection that I'd brought over. So we're using one of her leftover pieces of dyed paper and just stamping a couple butterflies on there to decide which one she liked better. And just cut it out and add that as an extra embellishment on her card. So here are the completed cards. We really had a fun day just playing and coming up with ideas and just kind of going with the flow. If you liked this video today, please like and subscribe. Don't forget that I also have a Tasha vs. Paper group on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram. So please join me there. I would love to see you. I hope you have a happy and safe weekend. And as usual, go do something amazing.